Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In last week's video, we were working on a 35 to 36 Ford pickup bed. We made a set of sub rails for it. We kind of straightened out and tacked on the sides and the back of the bed. In this week's video, what we want to do is finish that one off, at least that stage of it. We had the original pickup tailgate, which you can see is damaged quite badly. Probably could fix that, but the owner had another one that was sandblasted at some point in time. Still needs a little bit of straightening onto it, but nothing too serious. But what he wants me to do now is take this and we're going to mount it on the subframe that we built. We're going to make the hinges for it the same way that we did on this one over here. Once that's done, we'll strip it apart. We'll take the sides off to it. The subframe will go out, get sandblasted and primered, come back in, and then we're going to weld everything permanently to it and of course put the tailgate on it. I don't think that we're going to be putting a bed into it because I think he's got some metal he wants to put into it. This is going to be one of his a yard truck for his property is what I understand. So there's another frame and a whole chassis and cab and everything that goes with it at some point in time. Also, we're going to carry on working on the camera lady's Roadster. I want to get some more wiring done on the gauges. The little mini indicator lights that I destroyed a couple weeks ago, I got another set of those in, so now I'll be able to work my way across the dash and put the gauges in. And as well, I've got to get something done on the 5-window coupe. We haven't done any work on that for a while. We finished fixing the chop on the driver's side, but I didn't work my way around this side and fix the chop on it. Those of you that are following along, someone had chopped this pretty badly at one point in time. We're not cutting it apart and taking it off or anything. What I've been asked to do is just clean up the welds. In some cases, it is really, really thick there. I think they must use a stick welder or something. There's a little bit of bronze, but most of it's steel. So what I want to do is start working my way back around here so that we can move this along for my friend on this one too. So anyways, follow along. We're still working on 32 Fords and 35 pickup beds. Well, tonight I am plugging away on the camera lady's Roadster. I've got a couple of the gauges in so far. 2 episodes ago, I started working on this and I had to stop because these tiny little indicator lights right there. I put them in many times before, but for whatever reason, the ones I had didn't fit the holes. I tried to shove them in the holes. I thought they were 5/32 as they were indicated on the bags and the holes in the dash previously, but they're, I think, 7/64 ultimately. I put these in many times before. You just push them in, they kind of just snap into place. Well, I kept pushing them until they broke, so had to go buy some more. They've since come in. They're just these tiny, tiny little LED lights with little wires right there. So we've got those now. What I'm going to do is carry on with this. Hopefully I can get all of the gauges done and everything wired. And then everything hanging that you see right there is going to hopefully find a home. So it'll be all cleaned up. As I mentioned before, the wires hanging up out here to the cowl vent, those are basically stuff that we're not going to use from the 12 circuit wiring harness, stuff like power antenna, power to the radio. We're not having a radio, so I'm just basically putting ends onto them, wrapping them up, and then we'll hang them up underneath the dash. But for now, I'm just going to have them hanging out of the way here, just outside of the cowl. But like I said, everything else that you see hanging down there does need to be hooked up. So we're going to hopefully, fingers crossed, won't have any other issues, and we'll be able to continue on with that and get that done and checked off the list of things to do. Well, last week we had some really nice weather. Most of the snow all melted away. We had probably 2 feet or so in the yard still. Most of it is gone, but anyways, we woke up today and winter is not done with us. So if you're somewhere south in the warm weather, enjoy. Up here in Canada, we're not done yet with the snow. So anyways, today we're off working on the Camera Lady's Roadster. The plan today is to try and finish up all of the gauges, get them all in place. The mini lights had come in. I've already started on working on some of the stuff. Have the speedometer in, the tachometer, we're just getting ready to put that in place. And then we've got 2 other gauges. We have some of the wires run, and I've actually covered them up now. Going to the back of the car, I've run the extra line right there, that purple one. That's going to feed the USB port for the phones that goes underneath the seat. And if you notice there's kind of like a red with yellow spots on it and a white line. That is for the brake switch, so we've got to feed that down underneath. The speedometer sending unit is the blue and the gray wire there. It's come up from the back of the transmission all the way up through, and that actually is feeding the speedometer, so we've got that in place. So anyways, we're going to try and finish up most of that stuff today so we can check that off the list. I do have to put the high beam switch on the floor, and I don't think the lines are long enough, but may have to splice some more stuff in there to get them, have the wires run the way we want them to. But anyways, we'll get that done, we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll get on to more stuff. Well, today I spent most of it wiring up the rest of the gauges, as I was talking about previously. Got everything wired in place. Haven't turned anything on just yet, but I mean, I've double checked stuff with the, I've got an old continuity tester here to make sure that we've got good grounds and all that kind of fun stuff. So that should be okay. Got the light switch in, the ignition switch. For now, this is a wiper motor switch. Now there's a hole for it. I'll put the wiper motor in, I put power to it, but at the moment we're not going to be running a wiper motor on the windshield. You can with a Roadster, so we're going to leave it there. If in fact at some point in time in the future we want or need to have a little wiper on the top of the windshield frame, it's there ready to go, but we're just going to leave it like that. The other thing I didn't do or get to so far is the high beam switch. That's just dangling there right now. The brake switch is on. We've got the panel covering the transmission back in and clearance for both of the shifter and the e-brake. I've got the wire ready to hook up the USB port, so gonna have to drill a hole and put the USB port in, but like pretty much we're 99% wired on this portion of the Roadster. The other thing I still have to do is get some ends for the main battery cable and a ground cable. Not hooked up yet, but it's basically ready to go. Anyway, that's what we've done so far today on this. I am going to go back over now and work some on the 5-window coupe because, like I said before, we haven't done anything on it for quite a while. Here I am working on Ellie's coupe finally after probably a 2-month hiatus. Kind of got sidetracked on all the other projects. So what I've done so far is the same thing I did on the other side. I've been hammering and dolling the original welds. Like I said, the owner doesn't want me to recut the stuff and take it out, but just basically hammer it flat, try and get some of the high spots out because his intention is to put a skim of body fill on this. So still got a little bit of flattening to do there, but we're making progress on it. Got a lot of the big gobs of weld ground out, so we're going to come back in there and they're going to fill up some of these smaller holes that we've cut through, fill those back up with weld. The really big one there came out of the rear window, so that was okay. I don't know if I'll have to put a light behind there. The camera's not focusing, so I'll have to put a light onto it to see if I broke through anywhere there. And if I did, I'll weld those little pinholes up. One thing, this area here was rippled quite badly. I've got some of it dollied out. I'm going to keep on working on that. But what I had to do was remove the rear wood, which we ultimately were going to do anyways because I've got a replacement piece made up for it. The one sitting over there is the one that we made up for that rear window. I've got one roughed out, ready to finish for this side. But you can see where when they chopped it, right there, you could see where they welded it up and they caught the wood on fire quite badly on the inside. That's the thing when you chop them. if you don't remove the wood, you can catch it on fire. So there it is there. We've got everything kind of knocked out, and you can see a little bit of light through some of the holes there. So I'm kind of grinding the back and dulling it, just trying to make the best of it, so to speak, without having to redo it again. So anyways, we're going to carry on with that. I'm going to keep on. I'm going to really dolly this out. There's a indentation here, and then I've got a high spot over here. I'm going to have to try and knock that down, because ultimately, like I said, he's just going to put a little skim of some fiberglass body fill onto it, and then sand it flat, and then basically a little bit of the old school. It's not going to be, doesn't want us to metal finish it, and that just takes a lot of time. But if we can get it really close and put a tiny little bit of body fill on it, make it look nice and flat, then we're good to go. The gobbed up welds are actually sound. There's just a lot of the weld there, so lots that we can flatten down and trim up and make her look better. Well, I've been carrying on with Ellie's coupe here. Probably this looks a little bit the same as what it was just a little while ago, but what's happened now is I've gone through, I've dollied a lot more, welded up some of the cracks, some of the pinholes and everything, recontoured some of the metal here. I had to grind a lot of the welds away from behind because they were really, really thick. So right now what I've got is a situation where I can take a flat piece of metal and I can slide it across here, and I don't have any high spots. So that's ultimately what the customer wanted, what my friend actually wants me to do for it. Don't get it super perfect because he knows he's going to put a little bit of body fill on it, but basically get it sound, get the welds and the metal as close as you can to the surface. And then if we put a 1/16 of body fill onto it, no big deal. The chop was never done very well, but again, we don't want to redo the chop. I know I've repeated that many times before. So right now, I'm satisfied with that. We've got the B-pillar sorted out here, and then probably what I'm going to do is take the door off next. The door isn't too bad for some sections. However, we've got a lot of blow through here, so I'm going to have to actually make up some little pieces of metal to do that. There's no way of filling that back up with weld or anything. And then the ultimate one, hopefully we'll get to on this episode, is the A-pillar. Got a nice crunch into it. We did the same thing on the other side to fix that. It's going to require a patch. I'm going to have to try and get from behind, more than likely drill some holes to pull some of it out and pound it in, some combination thereof. But anyways, we're going to go on to, I'm going to take the door off next. This side isn't so bad, and we'll try and fix the stuff on the door. We'll make our way around. So I've got the door off on the workbench here and looking at the original chop on the door. The top of the doors are basically hacked off and just tacked in place. Most of the welds weren't finished. You can see here on this section that connects to the B-pillar. This one's not going to be hard to fix at all, really, because it's just a matter of dressing up the metal here, cleaning it up, and then finish welding it all the way around. We're good there. But on the inside by the A-pillar, there was significant mismatch. And what I started to do before I started the camera, I started kind of pie cutting stuff so I could bend stuff in and realign it and make it look like it's smooth and continuous here. So I've done a cut here, a cut there, a cut there. So this needs to come up. This needs to go in. And then obviously by the extreme amount of gap there, I've obviously got to fill that in, kind of thing. So what I'm going to do now, just going to get I'm going to clean up all the metal around there, and then we're going to start filling the gaps in and then welding it back together again and make it look close to stock, as far as, like, instead of having a big ugly bump of where we've cut something off and no attempt to match it back up again. We're going to weld this up and clean it up and then dress it. And I've done this before on the other side. This side was a little bit worse, but same kind of thing. I'm going to do this side and the other, and we'll hopefully have a nice looking chop here in a few minutes. Here's the B-pillar side of the door, all welded up and dressed. Turned out pretty good. That was relatively straightforward to do. The gaps weren't too bad. Here is the A-pillar side. Quite a bit more welding, some grinding and re-welding. And then over here, here's a section where I did the pie cuts and welded it. It's still, I might actually cut that and raise that up. It's still not a nice smooth slope. You can see there's a little bit of a bump there. So I think I'm going to cut that and then try and get that straight. Kind of nitpicking a little bit, but I kind of want to get this looking like it's intentional. So gonna cut that, and then on the underside here, there's a small patch. I had to cut a piece out. Can't put the door over right now, but there's the piece that I cut out from the other side. What I'll do in a couple seconds, I will fix this, and I'm going to start making this little patch on this side. Before I weld it in, I'll show you what the patch looks like, and then each step along the way. Here's the little metal patch that I was talking about. I made it out of 20 gauge. Normally I work with 18 gauge, but the metal on this door is so thin. I could make it out of 18, but more than likely would hold more heat. I wanted to make it either out of 20 or 22 gauge, so that when I went to weld it, it was a little bit, or pretty much the same thickness. Also makes it a whole lot easier to form. So in order to make that little tiny patch, it's actually just a couple little profiles. The first of which, this one, I had to actually make, I think, 4 of these before I finally got all the radiuses in the right place. But essentially, this first radius, all I did was take a small piece of stock like that, ran it through the bead roller, and then this edge, just literally flattened it out with the hammer on the metal plate here. This second edge was just a matter of putting it in the vise or against a sharp edge. And because this is quite thin, you can almost form this radius here right over the existing door to bend it down. And then the last little edge there, simply stuck it in the vise, the flat piece, and I literally, because it was only 20 gauge, I could work it away around this edge, bend that flange, and I just took a piece of metal stock here to actually, I whacked it with a hammer like this so I could sharpen up the edge, because when you bend this edge with your fingers into a vise or over something else, you tend to have a really large radius. So if you just take something flat and sharp, just take it like that, whack the top of it with a hammer, and then you can get the sharp radius along here. So that's how I made this little piece. All I got to do now, which it's not all, but what I've got to do now is actually weld it all up and dress it. So we'll get that done, and we'll show you the product in a couple seconds. So there's the finished product. I put the door back on the cab. As you can see, that's the section that I've dressed out, put the sheet metal repair into. Turned out quite nice. Not a lot of mismatch there. Very little bit of body fill that's going to have to go into that. I mean, basically everything is going to get body fill, because with the pits and stuff on the vehicle, it's basically going to be a skim coat no matter what. So anyway, that's done. The chop is fixed. The sheet metal is fixed on the door. Eventually, I'm going to have to go over it and actually do the gaps. We're a little bit tight right here. Don't know if I'm going to do that in this episode or not, but essentially for the gap, you basically grind away what you need in order to get a decent gap, weld the edge up, and clean it up. Now, if there were too much of a gap, like there is down at the bottom, you get out a piece of 1/8 round rod, or just build up the weld along the edge so that you've got a decent gap and consistent all the way through. Next up, I'm going to start tackling this little one, which is the worst. I don't know if I'll get it done in this episode, but I'm going to start it, and we'll start knocking the high spots out and trying to pull the low spots out of it. And of course, I know from over there's a whole bunch of bronze weld in here. I'm going to have to dig that out. There's going to be quite a mess. So follow along. We're going to try and finish the last part of the chop on the 5-window coupe. So this time on the top of the A-pillar in the front by the windshield, I'm going to take a different approach than I did before. The other side here, I made every effort to pound it out. I made metal pieces to stick inside and beat at it. I cracked the metal, and I mean, eventually at the end of the day, we have a decent result here that will take a little bit of body fill onto it and everything else. We made a patch here for all the places where there was bronze and everything else. What I'm going to do this time, I'm going to take a totally different approach because I can't access it from in behind. I decided to just literally cut the piece out, flatten it. We're going to do some pie cuts here, going to weld everything back up. I get a little bit of bronze here I've got to get rid of, but once I get this all done, then I'll take the bronze out. We're going to make a brand new patch to go across here. Obviously on the inside of the inner structure, I'm going to clean this up and weld it because it isn't welded all the way around just like the other side. But I couldn't figure out why it was wrinkled across the top here. And then it dawned on me, I think last night, when they chopped this, they basically cut the top off and then they lowered it. So the top of the coupe is shorter this way than this way. So normally what you would do, you would pie cut the A-pillars, or you would cut across the front of the windshield frame and then lean everything back into the top. Given the fact we had those massive wrinkles here, I think what they did is they actually shoved something up inside of the top of the A-pillars and basically twisted out, which gives us that wrinkled look. I had never seen anybody do that before. So anyways, probably somebody a long time ago, we know this was done 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever. The chop was done, wasn't done very well. They knew what they wanted, but unfortunately they didn't execute it very well, so we're fixing everything. So like I said, more than likely what they did, instead of leaning the A-pillar back to meet where the top was, they basically just physically reefed on it with a bar or something and tipped the top of the windshield frame out, which caused all this sheet metal buckling. So anyways, what I'm going to do, the metal is pretty decent here. There's some nice gaps, but we're going to weld all of this up. We'll clean it up, and then I'm going to make a patch here, and hopefully we'll get this side cleaned up as good or better than the other side. So this is about an hour and a half later. Welded up all those little pie cuts and everything else. Ground it, exposed some thin spots, had to weld them up, old metal. The metal wasn't quite as good as what I thought it was, but it was still good enough to do what we wanted to do. So between filling in the little pie cuts and the welds, and then basically going over it and forming it with those little 3M Cubitron little pads or whatever, the mini grinder and everything else, I basically built up and ground down all the spots. So now we have this corner looking the way that it's supposed to. The inside is good too. There's a couple tiny little pinholes here. I still gotta go. I got one right there I've got to fix, but other than that, I think we're good to go. So next up, I'll do that little pinhole. This piece here, sometimes I'll do it in one piece, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it probably in 2 or 3 pieces. I'll start with the inside piece here and try and form it as far around here, and then we'll do another piece across this side. So it can be done in one piece. It's more elaborate and harder to do. No one's going to know except for you and me that I did it in 2 pieces when I'm all done, but I think we're going to do it in 2 pieces just to make it a little simpler. Okay, so follow along. I'll probably do the inner side first. Like I said, I'll show you, then we'll do the other side and we'll get this A-pillar all fixed up. So there's the first piece of metal. Basically bent it over on the vise. Went a little bit further along the side than I expected. I'm still going to have to make a second piece here because I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So instead of splitting it down the center here, I'm gonna start welding it in. I'll weld it in and I'll work my way around the corner. And as I go around the corner, I'll fold the metal out, and then what I'll do is then I'll put another piece in this corner here. So sometimes you're making a patch. If things go well, you got the right shape, you can do it in a half, a quarter, a whole, or you kind of have to adapt to how things turn out. And I guess if I were going to make a lot of these, I would probably look at a forming die or something like that to put it over, but don't know if I'll be doing another 5-window or not. I didn't think I would be doing the second one or the third one, but here we are. This is the third one. So anyways, I'm going to start welding this across. We'll get it along the side, we'll dress it up, and then we'll get that back piece done too. And there is the A-pillar chop fixed. Right now we've got it nice and smooth. Had to fill a couple pinholes as I welded it, but essentially made that little patch in one piece, and then there was a small little dog-leg piece I had to put in there. It's a little bit of skin of the body fill, and I think we're good to go on that. Actually a little better than the other side. So what I'm going to do next, the A-pillar wasn't properly welded all the way through here, so I'm going to grind this away, cut through the original weld for the tacks or whatever, and I'm going to weld it all the way around. We did get it underneath the sheet metal here. That's done. Just I want to get at that section right there, get that bronze out, get the bubblegum welds out, and then actually do a pretty decent weld like I did on the other side. So we'll carry on with that, get that fixed up. I'm going to put the door back on, and maybe I can get that door gap thing attached to the door gap stuff fixed where you see the green tape, and finish some of this metal work. There is the finished welds on the A-pillar. Like I say, I dug out all the original weld, cut all the way through, and then welded a couple times and reground it right along the side there, right along here. So everything actually is welded 360 degrees all the way around now. The one thing I did have to do, I had to remove there's a piece of trim that goes, sorry about the light, up underneath here. That piece of trim was actually welded to this point, so I had to cut it off there and pull the nails out in order to get this piece off. We don't have one of these for the other side. I'm gonna have to make up there's a piece of wood trim here, right there. Gonna have to gently take that off, duplicate that wood, reverse it for the other side at some point in time. And then I don't know if I can make one of these or not, but apparently they're not that easy to come by, original ones. Seen them before, repaired a few of them. That one's in pretty decent shape. It's thin, but there's no holes into it. So I may make an attempt at making one of these for the other side. So it's kind of a good thing we took it out, but you can see there where it was welded to the A-pillar. So a tiny little bit of repair here to restore that edge. But other than that, anyways, the A-pillar is welded, all happy with it. Gonna put the door back on, gonna grind away the gap and make a repair on that gap. So there's a door on right now, and like I said, there was an issue. I found an issue with the door gap. I didn't like it. It was way too tight from here on down. And essentially the process is simple and straightforward. We covered it before. Take your gap, run a pencil line or marker line where you think it is, grind it back with a flapper wheel, grinding disc, whatever, re-weld the line up, dress it again with a mini grinder, and that's pretty much it. So reducing the gap is a little easier than filling the gap in. Down here, we're probably gonna have to fill the gap in. I'm not gonna do that right now. So one of the things I was planning to do in this episode was to put the tailgate on the 35 pickup bed. We've got the tailgate. I know how to do it. We need to make up some little tabs like this. There's 6 of them, drill 1/2-inch hole into them, and then there's a little plate on the back we weld them to. The issue was, went to use my drill press the other day, and the belts kind of went on it. Drill bit, no turn, no more. Pretty straightforward belts. You would think A27 belts and an A29 that was on it. Ordered those up off of Amazon, came immediately, didn't fit. Apparently whatever A27 and A29 they were, that's not what comes from Amazon from China or whatever. So anyways, after some back and forth return stuff, we now have two A27 belts on it that seem to work and they're nice and tight. So what I'm going to do now is spend the rest of this episode trying to make up the brackets for the tailgate on the 35 pickup bed. Here are the tailgate hinges, same as I did last time. Made it out of 3/16 thick steel plate. Basically made 6 tabs, drilled 4 half-inch holes into them. The center line of the hole to the back of where the tailgate's going to be is 1 inch. Pretty straightforward. And in a tab like this, I've drilled some 3/8 inch holes into them to put bolts in or weld them to the tailgate. I think we're actually going to weld these, so we'll do plug welds on those, I think, on this particular bed. But essentially, it's going to go in there like that. I'm going to get the welder up. I'm going to tack weld these on. Then we'll finish weld them, and that will be the 3 hinges that will go on the back of the tailgate. So simple, straightforward. I don't know if I'm covering enough details, but I think most of the folks that watch this get it. So like I said, we'll weld those up, clean them up, and then hopefully we'll get that tailgate right there, the one in the middle along the wall, and we'll get her on the back of the original 35 box. And there's the brackets for the tailgate hinge put on. I wound up actually welding all the way around the bracket instead of just welding the plugs. The plugs didn't seem to hold as well as I wanted them to. Probably if I would have put some through bolts in there, probably would have been better. But anyways, this is more of a practical thing than it is trying to make it super pretty. So right now it's all welded in place. The tailgate was not as straight as what I was hoping. It is a little bit stiff, probably needs a little bit more, needs a little bit more finesse as far as flattening it out, but at the same time, we didn't want to do that. This basically the owner, my friend, wanted us to just put this thing together with the rust, with the patina, put a nice solid subframe into it, and he's going to use it for a yard truck. So tailgate is on. We can use the original hangers or latches or chains, whatever you want to call them. They all hook in place and hold it. So that's it for, at least for this stage. The other thing I did do, I wasn't too comfortable with the angle iron just going into the 2x4. So I don't know if I can zoom in there. I decided to put a gusset across the back there just to stiffen it up a little bit more. I don't know if it was necessary or not, but it just seemed kind of a weak joint to me, so I figured gusset is not going to hurt. So that's done up. More than likely what's going to happen now, just waiting for him to give me a call. As soon as I know when he's coming, I'm going to take all the sides, the back and the tailgate back off again. And like I've said probably a dozen times now, I'm sorry, the subframe is going to go back out and get sandblasted and epoxy primered. Well, that's it for another week at Coldstream Rod Shop. This week we spent a lot of time working on Ellie's coupe. I'm really happy that we finally got back onto it. Got all the metal work done on the chop on the passenger side all the way to the front. Finally figured out why there was those big ripples on the top of the A-pillar, or at least speculated on why, because I couldn't figure out why it was bent like that. And as I said earlier, what I think happened, whoever did the chop on the coupe, they cut the top off, they lowered it so far, and then realized the top and the bottom of the A-pillar didn't match, so they stuck some sort of leverage or something inside of the roof, tipped it up, and then wrinkled the corner. So that's how I think those wrinkles got there now. But anyways, that's fixed. We will progress on this the coupe to work on the wood onto it. Sorry, I'm looking away at this while I should be talking to the camera lady. But we'll do some more work on Ellie's coupe over the next couple weeks to get that project moved along. My friend is actually working on the chassis for it, so at some point in time the chassis will come back and get married up with the coupe. And then on the original 35 pickup bed, we've got the tailgate on. I'm working away on this as per what the owner wants us to do. So right now, or later on today, more than likely, going to take the tailgate back off, all the metal back off. The subframe is going to leave. And then when it comes back, we'll weld it all together. And then this kind of project will go at the door. The original or the new 35 or 36 box we have over there, we're just waiting for that to get queued up at another friend's place to get epoxy primed. So kind of wrapping up some of the stuff in the shop here. The only thing we're actively going to be working on for the next little while will be the 5-window coupe, and then of course the camera lady's Roadster. But anyways, that's a kind of a wrap up for this week at Coldstream Rod Shop. Hopefully you enjoyed me working and finishing the work on the 5-window coupe and doing some work on the truck bed. But that's it. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe, and come on back next week, see what we're up to, and everybody have a great week. Take care.